Welcome to Thinking Deeper by 6-7. Okay, let's just get real for 30 seconds. We live in a world that is, it's obsessed with speed. We want same-day delivery. We want instant downloads. We want that text back before we've even put the phone down.
Right.
But there is this massive, agonizing tension that we just can't seem to swipe away the gap between what we desperately want and, when we actually get it.
Mhm.
Today, we are diving into a source that argues that your frustration, that feeling of being stuck, ignored, or abandoned, isn't a mistake, it is a construction site.
I like that. A construction site.
We are exploring the theological argument that what feels like a delay to you is actually a necessary architectural phase designed by a God who is very much active in the blueprint of your life.
And it is a fascinating premise. We're analyzing a specific discourse from a creator named Noah Kwaku.
Right.
And what makes this deep dive so interesting is that we are stepping squarely into the realm of theism. We aren't looking at this through a secular self-help lens today, like how to be patient so you don't get an ulcer.
No, not at all.
We are evaluating a very specific metaphysical claim that God is not a passive observer watching the universe tick by, but an active architect of time itself.
Exactly. We're asking the big, heavy questions today. Is suffering just bad luck, random chaos, or is it preparation? Is time running out on you, or is time being managed for you? This is deep stuff.
It really is.
And it challenges the way we look at our own history. And hey, before we really start unpacking this heavy theology, I want to make sure you don't miss out on future deep dives where we tackle these kinds of complex topics.
Good idea.
If you like my channel, please subscribe and press the like button.
So let's get into the first major assertion Noah makes. It's right at the beginning of the source material.
Yeah.
He challenges the very nature of cause and effect, just regarding how you even arrived at his message.
Yeah, he doesn't ease into it. He comes right out of the gate swinging. He says, essentially, if you're watching this right now, it wasn't by coincidence, it wasn't by chance, it wasn't by luck.
It's a bold claim.
He tells the listener, point blank, you were chosen to watch this.
And this is where we see that sharp divide between a materialist or, say, an atheistic worldview and the teleological one Noah is proposing.
Teleological. Okay, that's a big word. Can we break that down for everyone?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So in a purely materialist world, let's say an atheistic world, things happen largely because of physics and probability. You click that video because of an algorithm, or maybe your thumb slipped.
Or you were just bored and scrolling.
Exactly. It's chaotic, or at best, it's statistical. There is no grand design behind a YouTube click. But a teleological view argues that there is an ultimate purpose or design inherent in the universe.
So he's saying there's an intention behind it.
A specific intentionality. That's what Noah is positing.
It's what we might call the proposition of selection.
That's a great term for it. The proposition of selection. By telling the listener they are chosen, he's reframing their existence from just a random biological occurrence to a specific narrative role.
And that's powerful.
Psychologically, that is incredibly powerful. It suggests that there is an external observer God who has specifically curated your information diet for this exact moment. It kind of removes the anxiety of randomness.
And he follows that up with a pretty bold promise. He says God is about to transform you into someone you've never thought you could be. And honestly, I love the specific detail he uses here. He talks about social vindication.
Is that the same kid moment?
Yes, that resonated with me. I think everyone has that fantasy, right? The high school reunion fantasy.
Oh, absolutely.
He describes a future where the people who look down on you, the critics, the doubters, are going to be confused. They'll look at your life and ask, wait, is that the same person? It's the ultimate underdog story.
It is, and it plays into a very human desire for validation.
Yeah.
But we have to be careful not to read this as just, an ego trip. If we look closely at the text, in the theistic framework Noah's using, this vindication isn't just so you can gloat or say, I told you so. It's meant to be evidence of the transformation. It's a signpost to the doubters that something supernatural has occurred. However,
There's a condition.
and this is crucial, he attaches a condition. Did you catch the caveat?
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't just sit back and wait for the magic to happen. He says this is happening because you have been obedient to God. You have been working hard.
Precisely. This counters the idea that faith is passive. He mentions striving for the kingdom despite failures. So the argument here is that this selection isn't a lottery ticket. It's a response to a track record of grit.
So it's a relationship.
It implies a reciprocal relationship between human striving and divine rewarding.
But that brings us to the elephant in the room. And I think this is where the rubber meets the road for most people.
Mm-hmm.
If we are working hard and if we are chosen, why does everything feel like it's falling apart? Why are we broke or lonely or frustrated?
Well, you've just hit on the classic problem of theodicy.
Theodicy. Right. That's the theological term for if God is good, why is there pain?
Exactly. If God is all-powerful and all-loving, why am I suffering? Noah addresses this head-on. He lists the symptoms: trials, tribulations, delays. The feeling that God doesn't care or has, ghosted you.
He specifically says maybe you feel like the negative things were sent by God to punish you. I think a lot of us have that instinct. It's transactional.
It is.
I did something bad, so now I missed the bus. I wasn't nice enough to my neighbor, so I didn't get the promotion. It's almost superstitious.
It's a very karmic way to look at the world. But Noah, he just flips the script. He argues for what we might call the preparation theory of suffering. He says, the truth is that the things you're going through now were meant to build you up.
He uses this logic that I found really compelling. It's about capacity. He says, God can't give you the things you desire because you're not the person right now that can have the blessings.
That is the container analogy.
Okay, walk us through that a bit deeper.
Think of it this way. If you have a fragile glass vase 1 with hairline fractures, maybe the glass is too thin, you cannot pour molten gold into it.
Right.
The gold is valuable. The gold is a blessing, right? But the vessel isn't tempered to hold it. The heat and the weight would cause the vase to shatter.
It would just break.
Noah's arguing that the delay isn't God withholding the gold, it's God tempering the glass.
That makes so much sense. So the suffering is actually the heat of the kiln.
That's the implication. If we connect this to the bigger picture of theistic philosophy, it challenges the consumerist view of God. A consumer wants the product now.
Right now.
An architect knows that if you put the roof on before the foundation is set, the house collapses. Noah identifies 2 specific traits being built during this time: patience and humility.
And he says until you change, God can't give it to you. That's a strong word, can't. Usually people say God can do anything. But here he's suggesting that giving you what you want right now would actually destroy you.
It would be a curse disguised as a blessing. And I mean, history is full of examples of this. Look at lottery winners who go bankrupt in 3 years.
Or child stars.
Or child stars who crumble under the pressure of fame. If you get success before you have humility, you become a tyrant. If you get wealth before you have discipline, you become wasteful. The delay is a safety mechanism.
A safety measure.
It's a very protective view of the divine.
Which leads us perfectly into the core text he uses to back this up. He quotes Habakkuk 2.3. Now, I'm not a theologian, but this verse seems to capture that tension of time perfectly.
It's a pivotal scripture for this topic. The verse says, "For the revelation awaits an appointed time. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay."
Okay, hold on. Let's unpack that. Though it linger, it will not delay.
That sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it?
It does.
If it lingers, isn't it delaying? That's literally the definition of lingering.
It sounds like a paradox for sure.
Yeah.
But this is where we have to get a little philosophical about time.
The source is highlighting the difference between human time and divine time. In Greek philosophy, which often informs theological discussion, there are 2 words for time: chronos and kairos.
Chronos is like chronological, the clock on the wall.
Right. Chronos is ticking clock time. Seconds, minutes, hours. It's quantitative. It's the time you see on your wristwatch. The bus is 5 minutes late. That is chronos.
And kairos.
Kairos is qualitative. It refers to the opportune moment or the appointed time. It's about seasoning. You don't take a cake out of the oven because exactly 20 minutes have passed.
You take it out when it's done.
You take it out when it's done. That is kairos.
So to us, watching the clock operating in Chronos, it feels like it's lingering. We're tapping our feet, checking our watches, getting annoyed.
Correct. But the source argues that from the perspective of the architect who operates in kairos, the arrival time is fixed based on readiness. It will not prove false.
So the delay.
Noah interprets "it will not delay" to mean that when it arrives, it will be right on schedule, according to the divine calendar. The delay is an illusion caused by mismatched calendars.
You are living on Earth time. God is operating on eternal time. Wow.
It's a heavy concept.
It is. It basically means my impatience is just a lack of perspective. Noah uses a metaphor here that I think everyone can relate to, though. He says you might feel like God is holding a carrot on the string,
Yeah.
just tantalizing you with what you want, but keeping it just out of reach.
And that's a very vulnerable admission. It acknowledges the emotional reality of the believer. It feels manipulative. It feels like a game.
It really does.
But by pivoting back to the text, Noah argues that the carrot isn't being pulled away to tease you. It's leading you somewhere. The string's a guide, not a prank.
It implies that we wouldn't walk the path if the carrot wasn't there, right? Like if I didn't want the promotion, I wouldn't do the extra work that builds the skills.
Precisely. If we got the carrot immediately, we'd stop walking. We are lazy creatures by nature. And the walking the journey is where that character building we talked about happens.
So the frustration.
The frustration of the chase is actually the mechanism of the growth.
Man, that is deep. So the frustration is a feature, not a bug. But there are things that get in the way of this, right? It's not just about waiting passively. It's about how we wait. Noah gets surprisingly specific about the barriers.
He does. And this is where the transcript moves from abstract theology to very gritty practical application. He lists specific vices: pornography, masturbation, alcohol, smoking.
Yeah, he doesn't dance around it. He calls them out as things that might be keeping you from knowing God.
What's fascinating here is the link he draws between these habits and the concept of purpose. He isn't just listing these as moral no-nos to make you feel guilty or shameful.
Right.
He frames them as barriers to connection. In the context of our container analogy, these are cracks in the glass.
Right, like there are leakages.
Yeah.
If you're numbing yourself with alcohol or distractions, you aren't doing the work of building that character. You're patching the wall with duct tape instead of cement.
Exactly. He presents deliverance from these things, not as a condition to be loved, that's a key distinction, but as a necessary step to function in your God-given purpose.
Ah, so it's about being effective.
If the goal of this entire process is to build you into a person who can carry a great weight of blessing, these voices are structural weaknesses. They compromise your structural integrity. You can't build a skyscraper on a foundation that's crumbling.
And he says confidently he will deliver you. There's a lot of hope in that. It's not just stop doing this or else.
No, it's not.
It's God will help you fix this so you can be strong. But what I really appreciated about this part of the source was Noah's own vulnerability. He doesn't position himself as the guy who has it all figured out.
No, he doesn't. And that's critical for his credibility. He explicitly says, I'm probably not the person that's ready for the things that I want in my life. He admits he's being built daily through tests.
That democratizes the struggle, doesn't it? It's not, I am the teacher, you are the student.
Right.
It's, we are both under construction.
It creates solidarity. It reinforces the idea that this building phase isn't a punishment for the lowly. It's a universal process for anyone seeking to align with this theistic worldview. Even the messenger is still in the kiln.
So let's zoom out a bit. We've talked about the proposition of selection, that we are chosen, not accidents. We've talked about suffering as a construction project, not a demolition. We've looked at the paradox of time, how waiting is actually just a mismatch of chronos and kairos.
Right.
And we've looked at the practical barriers. When you put all this together, what is the core message here?
The core message is a radical restructuring of how we view our own lives. If you accept Noah's premise, and again, this is a theistic premise, you have to abandon the idea of victimhood.
You can't be a victim anymore.
You can no longer look at your delays, your bad breaks, or your waiting periods as evidence that the universe is chaotic or indifferent.
Right. You have to start seeing them as intentional. Which is terrifying in a way because it means there is a plan I can't see.
It shifts the question from why is this happening to me to what is this trying to build in me? It posits a universe that is hyper-personalized to your development.
Wow.
There's a comforting thought. You aren't alone, but it's also a demanding one.
It is demanding. It means I can't just blame bad luck anymore. I have to look at my own character. I have to look at my container and ask if it's sturdy enough. I have to ask myself, am I ready for the thing I'm asking for?
And it requires trust. Massive trust. Trust that the architect actually knows what he is doing, even when the blueprint looks like a mess to you. It demands that you believe the timing is appointed, not accidental.
That's the takeaway for me. The waiting period isn't dead time. It's building time.
That's it.
It's the time when the muscles are torn so they can grow back stronger.
And if we go back to the source, the promise is that this period has an expiration date. It will certainly come. The building phase eventually ends, and the habitation phase begins.
But you have to survive the construction.
You have to survive the construction.
Survival through obedience and patience, it's a powerful perspective shift. Instead of shaking your fist at the sky because the bus is late, you realize you're actually in a training montage.
A training montage directed by the divine.
I love that. A training montage directed by the divine. Look, we've covered a lot of ground today. From the theology of Habakkuk to the psychology of addiction and delay, it's a lot to process.
It really forces you to evaluate where you stand on the spectrum of faith. Do you believe in coincidence, or do you believe in a call?
And that leads us to the thought we want to leave you with today. We always like to give you something to chew on after the deep dive ends.
Based on everything we've discussed, if we accept the logic that your delay is for your benefit, I want you to ask yourself a hard question. What specific character trait is your current situation trying to teach you right now that you are actively resisting?
Ooh, that's a good one. Are you resisting patience? Are you resisting humility? Or maybe discipline? What is the lesson that, if you finally learned it, might actually end the delay?
Because if the source is right, the blessing isn't lost. It's just waiting for you to be ready.
Thanks for thinking deeper with us. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.